Algebra 1, Chapter 8, Review, Part 2. Now let's go ahead and review exponential growth. Remember, an exponential growth is y is equal to a times b raised to the x. When b is greater than 0, then we have an exponential growth. So on your test, they're going to ask you to match some equations to some graphs. If you were to see something that looks like y is equal to 3 raised to the x power, first thing you need to notice is that this equation has an exponent. So if you see an equation with an exponent, we need to start thinking about exponential growth or decay. Because my value for b is 3, and 3 is greater than 0, we should get a graph that is an exponential growth. In other words, it's going to start on the bottom, and it's going to work its way upward in one of the quadrants. Right? Exponent, base greater than 0, we need a graph that is going in the upward direction. Now, on the other hand, if we have an equation such as y is equal to 2x, this is 2 times x, x is not an exponent in this equation. Right away, you should be familiar and notice that this is really slope-intercept form, so we get y is equal to 2x plus 0. Y equals 2x is not an exponential growth, but rather it's going to be linear. In other words, if we were to graph it, we would get a line. So make sure you review your notes. Exponent, base, greater than 0, we need a graph that's going in an upwards direction, curving. Okay, it's got to curve. No exponent, just a variable, we get a line. Alright, let's continue. We're going to evaluate expressions and write your answers in simplest form. If need be, keep them in fraction form. Alright, so let's look at 3 to the 4th times 3 squared over 3 cubed. I'm going to first take a look at my numerator. I see that my bases are the same. Properties of exponents tell me that I'm going to add. Okay, we're keeping our base of 3. 4 plus 2 is 6 over 3 cubed. Now I'm going to simplify again, because if we look, now we have a division. All right. Take a look at your bases. My base is 3 in both numerator and denominator. Property of exponents tell me that we are going to now subtract. We keep the base of 3. 6 minus 3 is positive 3, so we get 3 cubed. 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. So evaluated, 3 to the 4th times 3 squared over 3 cubed is 27. Okay, let's do one with a fraction now. Let's say we have 5 over 6 squared. Remember that your exponent to the 5 is 1, the exponent to the 6 is 1. This gives me a power to power, so that means I need to multiply my exponents, but make sure you are doing it to both numerator and denominator. So what that's going to give me is 5 squared in the numerator, 6 squared in the denominator. Evaluate 5 squared. 5 times 5 is 25. And 6 squared is 6 times 6, which is 36. So go ahead and take it one step further, continuing with simplifying. Let's say I have 5 times x cubed times y over 2 times x times y cubed. Alright, since my operation is multiplication in between each term here, we can just simplify first the 5 over 2. Okay? 5 over 2 simplified is just simply 5 over 2. Next, let's take a look at my second term in the expression. We have x cubed divided by x. Bases are the same. Dividing, subtract the exponent. The exponent to my denominator x is 1. So that would be x cubed minus x to the first, which gives me x squared in the numerator. Okay, looking at our last term, we have y divided by y cubed. Bases are the same. Exponent to y is 1. Since we are dividing, we need to subtract. That becomes y. 1 minus 3, which is y to the negative 2. And we're almost done. If we go back and look at the first part of our simplification, we see that we have a negative exponent, not allowed. However, we also see it's in a fraction, so we can just throw it in the denominator. So what we get is 5x squared over 2 times y squared. Alright, let's do one more. Alright, I'm going to keep the same expression, 5x cubed times y over 2 times x times y cubed. This time, let's raise it to the second power. Alright, so what we want to do is first simplify the expression. Alright, this time what we're just going to do is leave each part in power form. Remember, the exponent to my 5 is 1 and the exponent to my 2 is 1. So we have a power to power, so that means I've got to multiply this 2 to every exponent that is in my expression. So that's a lot of multiplying we have to do. Okay, so let me go ahead and back this out so it looks clearer. Alright, first, 5 to the first raised to the second is going to give you 5 squared, because 1 times 2 is 2. Then we have x. X cubed raised to the second, 3 times 2 is 6, so that's going to give us x to the 6th. Y, 1 raised to the second is going to give us y squared. Alright, do the same at the bottom. The exponent 1 times 2 is 2, so that's going to be 2 squared. Then x squared, then y to the 6th. Alright, everything looks good. Everything is in power form, but we need to simplify further. Alright, so we have 5 squared over 2 squared. We can't simplify that any further, so we're just going to leave that as it is. We're going to say 5 squared over 2 squared. Do not evaluate. Next, we're going to look at our next term. We have x to the 6th over x squared. Bases are the same. Dividing, subtract the exponent, so what that gives you is x to the 4th in the numerator. Okay, look at your last term, y squared divided by y 6th. Bases are the same. Dividing, subtract the exponent, so that is going to give us y to the negative 4th in the numerator. You have to keep simplifying, because if you notice, we now have a negative in our numerator. We can't have that let's go ahead and discuss scientific notation. Alright, so the first example in scientific notation, we need to rewrite the number in decimal form. So what does that mean? It means it's already in scientific notation. We need to change it to a decimal. So let's say we have 2.5378 times 10 to the third. Alright, remember, when we're going to a decimal, we're going to move according to the exponent. Since my exponent is a positive 3, then I'm going to start where my decimal is at, and I am going to jump to the right 3. So we're going to jump 1, 2, 3. So my new decimal answer is 2537.8. Here's your answer in decimal form. Alright, let's look at another example. Let's say we have 5.2341 times 10 to the negative 4. Since we are going to decimal form, look at your exponent, it's negative 4. That means we have to start with the decimal, and we're going to jump left 4 this time. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to go back, and we're going to put zeros to hold all of our places. So my new decimal is 0.0052341. Alright, this concludes part 2 of your Chapter 8 review. Look for part 3.